Welcome back to the Global Business Report here on Arise News. It is, of course, our eye on tech, and we're looking at Michael Burry, the investor known for predicting the housing meltdown ahead of 2008. He's turned his attention to one of the market's most beloved themes, artificial intelligence. So he essentially closed down his hedge fund, Scion Asset Management. He's launched a new blog. I think he's charging about $379 a year to subscribe to his new blog, and he's targeted artificial intelligence and suggests that it is a bubble. Now, one of an analyst that used to work for that Scion Asset Management, his hedge fund, actually put out a note talking about artificial intelligence with a quote saying that, well, yeah, it sounds good, but is it paying back? Yeah, there he is. That's Phil Clifton. He's now started his own fund, Pomerium Capital, saying the investment world is expecting far more economic importance out of this technology than is likely to provide. Just because a technology is good for society or revolutionizes the world doesn't mean that it's a good business proposition. Well, that's pretty interesting. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology has released a new study that found that AI can replace about 11.7% of the current U.S. workforce. That's a pretty interesting update there from MIT. We're going to get our thoughts on our guests on that particular stat as well. Meanwhile, rumors have been swirling about Meta purchasing TSU chips from Google. Google, of course, and Alphabet, which of course is the parent company, their new Gemini 3.0 has been all the rave. And now we've got a report, although I don't think Meta or Alphabet have responded to requests for comment, but it sort of validates this new set of chips from Google and their 3.0, their Gemini 3.0. Meanwhile, Nvidia did put out a statement praising its rivals like Google and Gemini 3.0, but saying that, hey, listen, our chips are still the best there is in the business. And I think we've got the tweet from Nvidia. There it is. We're delighted by Google's success. They've made great advances in AI, and we continue to supply to Google. Nvidia is a generation ahead of the industry. It's the only platform that runs every AI model and does it everywhere computing is done. So pretty interesting updates there. So we're going to get our thoughts from our guest, who of course is Sam Jurrens, the CEO of Even Heard. Sam, happy Thanksgiving to you. Thanks for joining us on this day after the holiday, and welcome to the show. I guess I wanted to start with your thoughts on Michael Burry and him targeting AI, and seems like he's shorting it and saying that the returns are not what they think. Well, what, as a tech enthusiast yourself, what do you make of Mr. Burry's position?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Rhoda. It's good to see you. I decided to keep my holiday beard for you as well. I've followed Michael Burry for quite some time. Haven't seen anything really positive over the last 15 years. Kind of like you said, he's even closing his fund now. He's a deep value investor, which I can definitely understand. I think the difference is in deep value investing, like he's looking at, it's trying to say the market needs to say what he believes in his convictions, which that's not how the market actually operates. And I feel like he's also running parallels to 1999, believing this is some kind of tech bubble that's going to collapse imminently, and that he can somehow time that. If you look at something like The Big Short, which kind of glorified his positions, I mean, he basically bet all of his investors' capital on his conviction, which you've got to give credit to that. But as an asset manager, that's not appropriate, not something you should be doing. You should never risk something that could have turned out to be wrong and ended up losing everything. And then the same way, he kind of contrasts 1999. We now know with hindsight, a lot of the infrastructure build that was happening was what they call dark fiber, meaning the estimates are around 90+% of the fiber that was laid in 1999 was not even used or connected to anything. Contrast that to today with AI. These companies cannot keep up with demand for compute. So it's the exact opposite problem. The world is moving too fast. The technology is innovating so quickly, and so many people, because of the internet, of what we got from 1999, because of that innovation, that even you and I are able to talk right now over the internet is incredible. But now contrast that with AI. people can plug in super easily into this technology that's absolutely revolutionizing the world. And so I don't see any, I didn't have the opportunity to be managing a massive amount of capital in 1999, but whenever I look at it like that, that may be a benefit, because so many managers that I listen to and read their commentary from, they are worried about 1999, but I just don't see any similarities. But even in valuations, I mean, the only valuation, he's shorting Palantir, which I can respect and understand from a valuation standpoint. You and I have spoke about that on one of your previous segments of how inflated that valuation is. But at the same time, you're trying to predict what the market's going to do, not what you believe. And what Palantir is leveraging AI with is beyond any other company right now. And so I think it's deserving of an inflated multiple. And so I just couldn't disagree more, I guess, with a lot of his positions and his analysis of what's happening right now.
All right, thanks for that, Sam. Let's get to this MIT report that suggests that AI could replace about 11% of the U.S. Labor market. I mean, I don't know whether over at Even Heard you're going to use AI to replace any of your analysts or anything like that. What do you make of the report? Is it exaggerating things, or how do you see it?
So to me, if I look at AI, it's just another technology, and in most cases through history, those technology innovations and advances have always been more extreme. The last one was obviously the internet, and now AI. To me, I look at it as a absolute acceleration of business and productivity and activity, not a removal or replacement. We can just do significantly more. Now, it's difficult to not look at that and say, well, in the short term, it does seem difficult to not envision severe job loss. But I also think that's looking at the tip of the iceberg rather than the benefits that come underneath from the actual real iceberg. One of the best examples is I like to use is, Socrates 2,400 years ago advocated against writing because he believed it was going to destroy people's abilities to remember anything, and maybe that's true if you look at the tip of the iceberg, that people remember less. But how many benefits came from that quote unquote technology today to allow mankind to compound on each other over time by learning from each other? And so if we fast forward today, I see AI the same way. If you think of a radiologist looking at scans, already today, AI is helping kind of pinpoint and designate what they should review and look at. But I think it's hard to argue, is a computer not going to be better at doing that long term? I would say yes, it's going to be substantially better, and we're going to prefer and want AI to do that rather than someone that is a human doing that and having to look at it, where AI doesn't have to sleep. Now, if you look at the bottom of the iceberg from that, how many patients benefit? How much cost does the healthcare system save? How many people live longer, more productive, healthier lives because of these innovations? And I think, to me, I just look at that and think the true benefit and the massive compounding gain that we will see from this is just completely ignored, and it's only looking at the surface. And so for me, I think it could be a difficult decade as people adjust. But at the same time, it leverages levels the playing field for small people like Even Heard. We can leverage and utilize this technology and gain information and analysis on par with the behemoths in the financial sphere. So I mean, to me, I look at it as a massive level playing field. If you're an incumbent with networks and massively, high paid individuals and experts that you can leverage and gain advantages from, maybe you're not going to benefit as much from AI as someone like you said, Even Heard, that's a small player trying to grow and become bigger and compete with those people. So to me, it more levels the playing field, and is going to be a massive benefit long term.
All right, AI is helping David take on Goliath. I want to ask you about chips and what's been going on. Now, it is a rumor. We don't have confirmation from either Meta or Google. I want to now take you into Gemini 3.0. What have you made? Because Alphabet stock has risen. It's had a good November. This story of Meta allegedly looking to purchase chips from Alphabet. What do you make of it all, even though there's no confirmation at this time?
It's going to be a interesting transition over time because, if you look at the GPU in general, it wasn't designed specifically for AI, right? And AI over the last 10 years has been in serious development, and now it is a true theme in the future of computing in general. I would probably argue the vast majority of all compute will be done by AI systems, and so we're going to have redesigns. Many businesses are looking at this as well. Broadcom is one that's helping a lot of them do it too. I'm not shocked. I'm more shocked by the market's reaction because Gemini 1 was trained on Google's TPUs as well. And Google's been using their own TPUs since, I think 2015 or so. So it's kind of shocking to see the market be so surprised by it. I think maybe, like you mentioned, Gemini 3 being such a strong player and such a big boost in performance. I think maybe that made people pay attention to it more and see it as a reality. But I ultimately see a huge design change in the way chips are made and the way data centers in general. I think the companies that are at risk are, more Ethernet cable related companies that, we're having to kind of patch together the technology we have rather than create the technology we need for the future. And as we move forward, we're going to continue to create that different future. And the actual tech itself will look massively different than it does today.
So, okay, I guess I do want to, for our viewers' sake, remind them of some of the reactions to Gemini 3. I think it was Michael Binhoff, the CEO of Salesforce. He has his tweet where he was incredibly excited about Gemini 3.0. I think we have there it is, yes. Mark Binhoff, saying he used ChatGPT for about 3 years, and I think we're coming up on the 3-year anniversary of ChatGPT. But then he says, I've used Gemini, I'm never going back, it's the next level. What can you take? You just talked about it just a moment ago, but what have you made of the reaction to Gemini 3.0 from Google?
I would say on the visual side, photos, diagrams, text, those kind of things that it can produce and generate is a massive leap forward, something that we've never seen. I would caution any of your viewers to never believe a video or a photo that you see ever again. It's absolutely unbelievable what that public model is capable of, let alone what they have behind closed doors going on. So it is a huge leap, but I will say that is today. This technology is moving so fast that it will change in 2 months. Grok 5 is being discussed by Elon Musk already. ChatGPT is also working hard to make advances as well, and Meta is still kind of quiet on their advances as well. So I think it's going to be something that continues to change. Google just benefits because of their consumer reach. How many Android phones are in the world that they can easily just give access to these services to people that the user friendliness is amazing, and I think that's what their focus is you're just talking to a computer and it's doing what you want it to do, and that long term is what it's going to be, and I think that's going to change technology and computers and how we interact with technology in general. But Gemini 3 is a big push forward to that, especially being Google, that's a consumer business. So I think we're just going to continue to see mind-blowing things come out over the next 6, 12, 18 months.
Now, my final question for you, Sam, is the reaction from Nvidia. We read the tweet before coming to you where they essentially praised Google, said, well done, gave them a pat on the back, but still slipped into the tweet that, hey, listen, we are ahead of the market here. And you mentioned GPUs. That's what Nvidia is doing. As you mentioned correctly, yes, it wasn't for AI. It was for video games and stuff. Yeah, so there's the tweet up there. Nvidia is still a generation ahead of the industry. It's the only platform that runs every AI model and does it everywhere computing is done. That's the second paragraph. So just final question, Sam. Nvidia's stock was hit when Gemini popped up, when the rumors of Meta wanting to buy from it. So what's your outlook for Nvidia? Are they still going to maintain the leadership, or is that not going to last long? How do you see the competition within that space turning out?
Yeah, with Nvidia, I would be more concerned if the multiple is excessive, but like we've talked about in the past, for being the king and leader, it's not given a lofty multiple. Their chips still are better. There's reports and analysis. They're still significantly better. I think it's just something that maybe people didn't believe would come so quickly, that could be cracked, and that more competitors would be able to get on par with them. Because prior to this, nobody wanted anything. AMD had to give away 10% of their business just to get somebody to buy their chips. Everybody wanted Nvidia. And so if I look long term, Nvidia is going to be a major player. People criticize their circular financing and their equity deals. But if you think about that, they're taking today an 80% margin product that will not be possible long term. They're taking that and converting a lot of that into equity, and they're still making 50, 60% margins on that product, but getting equity stakes in these businesses that could potentially replace them. So long term, if they don't succeed and innovate, which I don't believe, but if they don't, they still hold huge chunks of all of these companies long term. I think quantum, a few months ago was kind of that argument, but then Google, came out with Gemini 3, so they focus on their TPUs now. I think quantum is probably the bigger player in how that plays out. Google's CEO made a comment that he believes that's actually more 5 years instead of what a lot of people were saying is 20 to 30 years. And so it's going to be an interesting landscape. And I will say this, going back to the Michael Burry's comment with his value investment approach. We just have never seen anything like this in history that can change this fast and accelerate this at this scale. And so I just don't think past tech applies, and this is a massive acceleration forward. And it's going to be difficult for any business to continue to keep a dominant hold on that. And it's good. That's a good thing. We want competition. We want other players in there doing the same things.
Fantastic stuff. What a time to be alive. Sam Jurrens, see you. By the way, Sam, I love the Christmas tree in the back. You're in the holiday spirit already. Thank you so much for joining us, Sam. Appreciate your time. Sam Jurrens, CEO of Even Her. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.